Hello, beautiful soul family. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor. Welcome to Monday Mastery, where we take a read on the recent energies. I kind of give you my take on how I've experienced it, and then offer some guidance on what is coming through from the divine right now on how to navigate this and how to move forward. Holy cow, what a doozy of a week. Absolute geo insanity. We have experienced quite a bit of solar flaring. And for those of you who are new, this is a timeless message. I do spend the first couple of minutes discussing sort of the solar weather or the energetic weather of this past week, and then I will get into the timeless message. So if you are watching this more than a week or two out from here, you might just want to skip those first couple of minutes. I might even start time stamping that. I never thought of that. So we'll do that for you going forward. Except for today, because I am taking a special day to make up for missing Mother's Day with my kids yesterday. So after this, I am out to play for the rest of the day. So maybe next time. Anywho, this past week was crazy. So for any of you who don't know, we are approaching something called solar maximum. The sun every 11 years goes through a state of peak intensity where it is spitting off gaseous materials, and because it comes towards the earth and we are electromagnetic beings, it impacts our bodies, our physicality, and our minds. It especially impacts our nervous system. So what's beautiful is I spent the weekend getting to know my new fellow classmates in a neuroscience and trauma master's program. And so it was interesting to be in the midst of this storm over the weekend with about 40 people who have experienced a lot of trauma and are learning to study the brain and the nervous system and trauma. So very, very fascinating stuff. But briefly, just to kind of give you an overview of the week, this started on Sunday, Monday last week. And it has been, even before that, I would say, the weekend prior to that, we had started to see the pickup and an increase in solar flares every day. And for a frame of reference, in 2018, we had 0 M-class solar flares. So what I'm about to list is pretty activating for the nervous system. It's a lot of fun to watch. And it makes a lot of sense when you can't quite figure out why everybody's behaving the way they're behaving. It's because we're being activated. Did you also know even just lightning can be activating to the nervous system? So that's why we talk about what we talk about, is understanding how to use this physical vessel to be able to move through life the way we are called to by the divine. All right, so Monday we had 5 M-class solar flares, not too much of a big deal. Tuesday, 11 M-class, 1 X-class. Wednesday, 11 M-class, 3 X-class. Thursday, 12 M-class, 2 X-class. Between May 3rd and May 9th, we had 10 X-class solar flares and 50 M-class flares. Now that's leading into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, where we really hit the peak of intensity. We had rapid fire M-class flares. So what that means is usually a flare will be a couple hours apart. It was happening where we would get 2 or 3 within a 30-minute or 1-hour period. We had multiple rapid fire M-class flares on Friday. We had 2 X-class flares. Most of those prior to Friday were in the 1 range. 1 or 2. On Friday, we had a 3.98 and a 5.9. We also had 10 more M-class solar flares on Friday. The X-ray flux was extremely high. And because of those very large X-class solar flares, we were also receiving a coronal mass ejection that typically would follow something like that. So that means we entered into an extreme geomagnetic storm. And for anybody who's interested in the science around this, you can go to NOAA, NOAA, the government website that will tell you and show you all of this. So this is very much measurable. I find that I am solar weather sensitive. So if you're anything like me, you might feel it coming in before it actually hits or even registers on their devices. I feel it before they register, and I feel the sort of the decline in energy before it tends to drop off on the systems or the measurement devices. So not sure why that is, but just a blessing from the divine. So on Friday, we hit a G5 or a KP9, which if you look at the KP index is right up at the top there. It's the dark, dark red, the maroon. And we heard a lot about the auroras that were seen as far south as Florida, which is pretty rare. I also find it very interesting that we've had previous X-class solar flares in previous solar maximums to that same intensity with less auroras. And one person was speculating that it may be because of the magnetic pole shift that we are approaching, and the just the Earth's atmosphere being less protective than it has been historically. Right. So the auroras were beautiful. Facebook was filled with people taking pictures, pink skies, green skies, purple skies. It was amazingly beautiful. And that geostorm continued from Friday through Saturday. And so that's a lot of intensity for our body. You may have noticed high anxiety, maybe even a lot of worry or stress or fear, big fears coming up, difficulty sleeping, feeling nauseous, sick to your stomach, easily aggravated. Just midweek last week, even before Friday, my daughter, 6 years old, she said, "I'm angry and I don't even know why." And like multiple times she went into sort of just overwhelm and frustration. And so overwhelm is probably the best word for it, because if you think about our bodies, we are kind of like a cup and we can only handle so much, just like a cup can only hold so much water. What happens when we are full? We spill over. And so when you have that extreme anxiety or frustration or overwhelming feeling, the best thing to do is put your feet on the ground. Grounding is extremely scientific and extremely proven to be helpful in these types of situations. Every single appliance, like a television or a toaster, has a grounding wire, because if you are running electricity through something, it will fry out. It will not be able to handle the capacity without grounding. And so we are the same way. So don't let that confuse you or feel too woo-woo. It's actually very scientific. So put your feet on the ground if you're struggling with anything like that. Saturday, like I said, the auroras continued. They were most intense Friday night. Saturday, we saw two more X-class flares, 5 more M-class flares. Saturday evening, I finally got some sleep, which was nice because I was extremely exhausted. Friday, I had driven into Kansas for this orientation to meet my fellow classmates. And so the lack of sleep, the excessive amount of driving, and the geostorm on top of all of the flares, that was a lot for my body to handle. And what's interesting is we tend to personalize it. We're like, oh, well, I just didn't get any sleep, or I just did a lot of driving, or right, whatever your thing was, you probably had an excuse or a reason. Very few, there's a small majority that are going like, this doesn't make sense. There's no reason for me to feel this way. But the best part about it is, even though you might have life experiences that sort of explain it away, you're not alone. Almost everybody, I would be surprised if there was a single person on planet Earth that didn't struggle this past weekend, that didn't feel some sort of questioning, like, what is up? This is huge, right? So the beautiful thing is it started to calm. Saturday night, I slept really well. Yesterday, I just felt like this overwhelming sense of like, oh, relief. I would say probably backing up till about Friday, probably Saturday, especially, fatigue really started to hit in, because we had been so overwhelmed all week long that it was just like, oh, cannot anymore. Right. And so thank goodness for that decline on Sunday. It really did come at a perfect timing. Although we still had another X-class solar flare and 6 more M classes on Sunday. We moved from a KP9 or a G5 storm back down to a KP3-4 into a G2. Today, we are seeing a little bit of a spike again, because that the 5.89 X-class solar flare coronal mass ejection had not yet hit the Earth. So we're getting a little bit more today, but it's nowhere near like it was. And I don't think we'll get back to that G5 KP9 level. We're at a KP6 right about now with 2 more M-class flares today and some residual coronal mass ejection. Like I mentioned, anxiety, difficulty sleeping, worries, old wounds coming to the surface, and maybe even just sort of that. It's kind of like the rattling of the cage, or the nervous system shake, and you may even physically shake, because that's the nervous system trying to detoxify and release. Fear of the unknown was coming up for a lot of people, certainly because we're all starting a new program and there's a lot of uncertainty around that, as far as the people I was with all weekend. But even in general, leading up to that, there's this palpable sense of like, things are really shifting and changing right now outside of solar weather. It's really fascinating because if you look at, so this is solar cycle 25. Solar cycle 25 is proving to be stronger than 24, but 24 was the weakest we've had in the last 10 cycles that I could measure. So 1956 was the highest, where we had an X45 class solar flare. That was the Carrington event that took out communication devices, but that was 1856 too. So there's not as many things to take out as there are today. But the intensity level, even if you look back, like let's look at, so every 11 years we have a solar cycle. So if we look back at 2012 was the last one, 2001 prior to that, 1990 prior to that, 1979 prior to that, 1970 prior to that. Those, to me, historically looking back, as much as I can remember of those, I was born in 1979. I didn't feel the intensity like we're feeling now. So there's something more to this. And obviously, there's the end times prophecies of the Bible, and there's clearly a lot of chaos in the world, and there's clearly the Great Awakening happening. So many more people becoming aware of our Creator and creating a connection with God, and understanding mental health and the physical body. And this is different. This is different in a way that we can't measure with the KP index, right? So this is the Great Awakening. This is the return of Christ. This is Christ consciousness awakening in our bodies, and becoming closer to oneness with each other and with God. And so it's really, really exciting to be a part of this. And yet it can be a lot, right? So just remember, you're not alone in this, even outside of just the solar weather dynamics, right? So the world is shifting and changing. And if you're anything like me, if you're aware, if you're intuitive, if you're conscious, if you're awake, you have this sense of something's happening. We've all had sort of that, I think something's coming, this kind of intuitive sense of like something's right around the corner, something big is happening, not quite sure what it is. This feels like an amplification of that. Things are moving extremely fast. We could even talk about just the exponential growth curve that happens with new technology. We saw it in the Industrial Revolution, and we are seeing it now with technology. Hold on just one moment, please. We have a little kiddo that I need to address. And we're back. Like I was saying, we can look back and see that there were pretty significant events that happened in those years, and especially 1961 being the highest cycle in the last 10 years, which was almost double technically from a solar cycle perspective what we're experiencing right now. So you can get a sense of how different it is, that it's not just solar weather, that this is the shift that is upon us, right? So the way I've felt this, sort of the message that's been coming with, or the promptings that have been coming with this energy, is understanding what needs to shift and change in our life, and really being willing to look at where we are being called to make changes. In fact, it feels like a big push, especially earlier in the week, like a push to do something about what you know is not right in your life, or do something about your calling and your purpose. Right. For me, that ended up being going to the neuroscience and trauma program and getting that started, but also the preparation before that, and the feeling of the shift is stepping into a new life, stepping into a new era. We've used the analogy or example in recent weeks around, it's not a new chapter, it's a whole new book. That this is completely different. And we couldn't go back to where we were prior to this, even if we tried. It's kind of that I'm done moment. Like, enough is enough. I'm not taking this anymore. I'm not tolerating this anymore. In fact, we get what we tolerate in life. And we treat, just as much as we treat people we teach people how to treat us. We're doing the same in our own lives. If we continue to tolerate something, we'll continue to get more of the same. And so this energy kind of pushes us to say, enough is enough. I'm done. Like, this is a breaking point. We are no longer living the same life. We are moving forward differently. I even had a dream about getting a new license plate, which seems sort of trivial, is really not a big deal. But now that I think about it, I didn't realize this at first, but it was a new state. I almost want to say the Carolinas. That's interesting. If you know what license plate has an airplane on it, let me know, because I'm just now realizing that was part of the dream. But I love dreams and trying to interpret them and really feeling into, what resonates as truth as far as the possible explanations out there. I didn't even have to look this one up. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But my understanding was it was kind of like a new address, a new identity, a new coordinate, almost like I could not be found in the same coordinates that I was before, that I'm in a new place. And it's a new identity. It's a new life. It is incredible. And yes, I will acknowledge that that likely has a lot to do with my commitment to a new path over the recent years. The willingness to walk away from the six-figure corporate career and say, you know what, that is not what God has called me to. I am committed to stepping into my purpose. And the proving ground that is the first years of testing, like, are you really committed? Are you really in this? And admittedly, the questioning of, can I do this? Can I make this happen? The faith and the trust and the incessant, almost delusional commitment to the path brings you to that place of like, it's different. But I also know that we're all in this together. And even though it might seem like, well, that's specific to me, I would be willing to bet a vast majority of you also feel like something's really different. And I think it even really started with the eclipse, where it was clear, it was palpable, something had shifted and changed, even though it may have been an internal state of being at the time, because as within, so without, we're starting to see the materialization of this right now, right? And so being willing to do something about it, that I'm done moment, like enough is enough. Okay, well, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to shift and change? We're not just letting go of the old, but it's almost like we're kicking its butt right out the door. Like, kind of like flicking the bug off the shoulder is kind of the visual I get, right? And clinging to the past. Sorry, I have sticky notes up here. I'm going to stick my finger right in the camera. We're not allowed to cling to the past. And when we try to, it hurts. It hurts a lot. And it reminds me of the analogy, pain plus resistance equals suffering. It also reminds me of giving birth, or trying to pass something through your body that's difficult. When you're in resistance to that thing, it hurts more. And you perpetuate the pain even longer because you're holding on to it and you're not allowing the body to move it through. We have to have a growth mindset. In this day and age, you will suffer if you're not willing to grow, because things are moving so quickly. Like I said, that exponential growth curve, when you see the early adopters and there's sort of a slow uptick, and then all of a sudden you hit the exponential growth curve and it's through the roof. That's what's happening right now with technology and AI and all these things. We are forced to grow very, very quickly in these times. Adaptation, evolution, right? We are forced to evolve. And if you think about a fruit tree, the apple we eat today is nowhere near the apple that we ate 50 years ago. Evolution is a part of the natural order of things. That is part of how God created things. We have to evolve to adapt to be able to survive. And totally a bit of a divergent topic, but for some reason it wants to come through. So I'll quickly just touch on, I personally believe that creation and evolution can coexist. I feel like that's like a super hot topic to be bringing up right now. And really, we're just following the guidance here. Okay. Time, right? Time is the biggest issue between those two conversations. And we know that a day for God is not a day for humanity. So the way we measure time is the thing that separates us from the belief that we could be both created and evolve. They can coexist, right? Just because man assigned a measure of time doesn't mean that there isn't intelligent creation. And I struggle to believe that if you truly, truly search with a growth mindset and an open mind to understand, is there organized, intelligent creation? Science says yes. Okay, we're going to leave it there because I don't want to start a debate. That was not the intention of today. Point being, perfect lead in. Make friends with discomfort was the next note to come with that. So there we go. We gave you a little bit of trigger to help provoke exactly what the guidance is suggesting. Make friends with the discomfort. Feel it in your body. Look at all of the thoughts and the beliefs and the history and everything that comes with what I just said. You likely have a very strong opinion, one way or the other, and you likely have been taught that you have to be on one side of the aisle. You cannot be both. but God is in everything, and everything that we experience, right? God is also in our body, right? The body is the temple. The kingdom of heaven is within. The Holy Spirit lives within us. That means our body is the vessel for communication with God. And so when you are triggered and when you are feeling that discomfort, it's a gift. It is a gift beyond measure to be able to tap into source guidance that lives within you and feel into that sensation and say, okay, that makes me really, really uncomfortable. Why? Why am I uncomfortable? Where am I in resistance? What do I choose to believe? What am I being asked to have a growth mindset around? How can I dance around this? If you think about when you look at a pen here, this is perfect on the camera, right? You look at a pen here versus you look at a pen here, the size shifts and changes. This same inanimate object shifts and changes based on the perspective that you choose as you dance around it. So dance around that belief that is living in you that is causing the discomfort. So when you experience a trigger in life, see it as a gift. Number one, go into the body, sit with that sensation, release all resistance to it, let it be what it is. And in your surrendering to that sensation in the body, God, source, divine creator will bring to you the solutions, the resolutions, the closing of the stress response, the new, resilient, more resourceful perspectives, beliefs that open you up to expansion and growth and moving closer to God. Remember, stagnation, resistance, holding on to everything that we always knew to be true because it has to be that way. Otherwise, I feel unsafe. The uncertainty is too much for me to deal with. That keeps us stuck. That is what's causing the suffering in the world today, is our inability to be flexible, our inability to process, the suppression of emotion, and the inability to hear guidance. Because when we get in the way with our beliefs and the things we cling to and the resistance, we cut ourselves off from the creator who is the source of everything that your heart and soul desire and know are right. Okay. Wow. That was big. Thank you, God. Okay. Welcome the gift of the Holy Spirit that lives in your body and speaks through the emotions and sensations, right? Listening and softening into that sensation, releasing all resistance. Let God move through you. Let go of control. Control is probably one of the greatest, most pervasive trauma responses out in the world today. Right. And here it's really interesting. I have 2.5 sticky notes full of questions that I'm being prompted to ask you. And at the end, I said, usually this is guidance. Questions don't feel like guidance. And the answer was, the guidance comes from within. So my job is only to prompt you to seek these answers within you. And I love that I'm covered in goosebumps right now. That is my sign we're on the right track. So ask yourself these following questions. Pause, record, come back to this, write this down, journal about it. Question number 1, what are you doing and is it working for you? What have you done over and over and over expecting a different result? What do you insist on continuing to do even though the evidence is showing you it is not working? What do you have a belief or behavior around? Is it health? Is it wealth? Is it connection with others? Is it God? Is it spirituality? Is it evolution? You pick the topic, whatever you're struggling with. What do you continue to believe, say, and do around that topic? And ask yourself, is it working? Or is it time to let that shift and change? Are you listening? Are you insisting with your brain? I already have the answers. Do you let the brain get in the way of the emotions and the sensations in the body? Can you quiet your mind and ask it to purely be the observer? Still, be still and know that I am God. Still yourself and be with those sensations. What are you trying to control? Are you able to be still? Can you be still and stand in the eye of the storm, watching the chaos that is spinning all around us right now? Can you stay in faith? Can you be still in the eye of the storm? Can you hold yourself through the chaos? Holding myself feels like the trauma of being judged and emotionally abused for having a perspective, and still standing up in front of the class this weekend and saying, you know what, I'm not quite aligned to that, and I'd really like to understand more. Here's the evidence as to why I think this might be the case. Can you have a discussion around that? And feeling my body freak out, feeling my heart beat as if somebody was pounding a freaking hammer on my chest, and holding myself through it and asking that question anyways, because I knew that it needed to be asked. And every person in that room said we were thinking the same thing. Can you hold yourself in that chaos? Can you do it anyway? Even when the nervous system says that is like the most dangerous thing you could possibly do, right? Whatever your thing is, that's just my personal example, right? We can do this together. You can do hard things. I got you. We all got you. That's why we have a community. We will come hold you through this, I promise. Right? Can you stay in faith? Are you committed to faith and your purpose path? What is your intention right now? Get really, really intimately familiar with what is your intention. Vibe Mentor is actually an acronym: value and intention-based education. What is the value that God created you to offer in the world? And what are your intentions to use it to support the collective whole's healing and growth and connection with God? Right? Let that intention be clear in everything you do and everything you say, and get intimately familiar with the subconscious intentions of the ego or of the brain and nervous system's desire just for safety. And recognize you are the light of the world. You came here with a purpose, perfectly imperfect for your purpose. And it is that soul urge towards your purpose that will make you feel sick to your stomach when you know you are not on your path. Yeah, it's difficult to get on the path when you've been off the path the first 40 years of your life, like I was. It is. But I'll tell you what's harder is living the next 45 years without being on that path. I wouldn't want to live it, to be honest. Finally, what is your perspective? Kind of touched on that. Look at the things that you're challenged with and shift your perspective. Ask God for clarity. This is the other beautiful thing about questions. Remain as king by asking questions. You have power and authority. God has given you a gift that you have a responsibility to know how to utilize. We are powerful beings. We are creating all the time. The question is, what are you creating, and what are you creating from? Because your perspective and your belief and your words are creating. Is it something for the greater good, or is it more of the same that is limiting and holding you back? Right? What do you believe? How does it feel in your body? Do you know how to discern for yourself? Again, this comes back to the body. The body is extremely intelligent. The Holy Spirit lives in your body. You can feel truth in your body. And we are told to be discerning, not to just blindly follow, not just to blindly follow the pastors or the leaders or the government or the teachers or the doctors. What feels right to you? Does it feel like in your body? What does that food feel like? What does that thought feel like? What does that song feel like? What does your next right step feel like? What does your intention feel like? If it feels like crap in your body, it's wrong. And it's not I want to feel good, so I'm going to do the things I feel like doing. That is not what I'm saying. You could say, oh yeah, it feels good to eat a bag of Cheetos. Guess what? I don't agree. I bet you feel like crap. You could say it feels good to sit on the couch and binge watch an entire series of Netflix. I disagree. I bet you feel like crap after that. Really, it requires a self-honesty. How does it really feel in your body? And we can be pretty numbed out if we are doing things that feel like crap all the time. We've got to disassociate. We've got to look away. We've got to be like, I can't deal with all that. So let me just have a glass of wine instead. Numb it out even more. So the more you cleanse, the more you purify, the more honest you are with yourself, the more you see your thoughts, the more you get in touch with the body again, the more sensitive you become, the more you feel. It is a gift. All of those difficult feelings will pass. On average, an emotion, sensation in the body only lasts 90 seconds. Yeah, if you spent your whole life avoiding them, it'll take, a few processes of 90 seconds on top of 90 seconds, but you will get there eventually. on the other side of all that, walk through the valley of the shadow of death to get on the other side to the land of milk and honey. It is worth it. There's nothing more worth it in your entire life. And I can promise you that. I don't make promises I can't keep. All right, we're getting to the end here. Are you blindly following? Discern for yourself. Get in touch with yourself. Learn to trust yourself. Learn to be discerning of ego thoughts and lower thoughts and God thoughts, right? Really start to understand, how does God speak to you? What are you saying when you're talking to yourself? How does that feel in your body? And understand those signals. And remember, only you know what's right for you, because nobody has access to the emotions and the sensations in your body. God speaks to you. You don't have to go through another person. You don't need a guru. You get to go to God. That was the gift of Christ. That's the gift of the Holy Spirit. You know what's right for you. So let's start listening to and tapping into that guidance so we can hear what we're called to. Because your purpose, ultimately, at the end of the day, it might be like me, to help people heal trauma. It might be to raise kids. Whatever makes you thrive, because as you thrive, you raise the collective whole, the tide rises all boats, and we help heal humanity. My new favorite hashtag, heal humanity. I love you so much, my friends. I am here for you. I truly offer free sessions. I can promise you it is not a ploy. I will dedicate almost always more than the 30 minutes that I allow people to sign up for. Your purpose is my purpose. I am here to support you. I love you, my friends. Reach out for help. Don't give up. Keep going. It's going to get better pretty soon. This solar energy is passing and should be well on our way to heaven on earth. I love you, my friends. Namaste.